Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you here. Sorry, I was muted for a second. Let me adjust some volumes so that we have a good experience. There we go. I think that's better. Okay. Yeah, I was saying I've had a pretty good week, and I hope you have too. I haven't really been on too much, obviously. My work week has felt more like a really long work day, but it's been good. Things have been going really well, and I am quite pleased with all that's been happening around me. And that's really good. I think if you were to look back maybe even a year ago, it's been vastly improved since then. I have a lot of people in my life who I'm very grateful for and have helped me to have a satisfying and productive life. And I wanted to start with that, thanking my partner, thanking the people who have helped treat me, thanking fortune, really, just for shining on me. And really good people who have helped me and cared about my goals and all the things that fill my life. People like Sarah Samana, who designed this model. The wonderful people I work with who have given me so many great opportunities to show my best qualities. And let me recalibrate my camera really quick. It seems to be a little out of whack. There we go. Overall, just very grateful, very happy. And I'm glad for you all who come watch my videos and hang out with me while I do art. Give me inspiration, derail me with silly inspiration. All of it is just so wonderful. I'm so thankful. Okay, so with that, I have like a little show and tell to do. My tracking seems to be a little bit off, and I apologize for that, but let me step aside here for a second. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop, boop. Become smaller. Small. Small. There we go. Okay, so this is a painting that I started in stream, and it is of something complex and yet not complex in what I believe. It's a depiction of what happens when you pass beyond this astral plane and into a higher astral plane. You sort of enter a state where you dimensionally expand. And there are a number of things that happen that can be bewildering at first. You're suddenly aware of being much more than you were before. Your consciousness enters sort of a new body. And I should just tell you that the name of this painting is Ach, AKH. And I like to use Egyptian mythology because it has lots of useful metaphors, even though I don't actually subscribe to any particular belief system here. They have this metaphor of Ach, and it is the divine, complete divine person that occurs. And if you read the book of Going Up a Day, it talks about all of the rites and ceremonies that surround becoming an Ach. And it involves your Ka, which is your spiritual, eternal self that survives the body, joining with your Ba, which is like your personal self. And that process of joining those two together is the whole point of all of the funerary rites and rituals that accompany a person on their journey to the afterlife. So, when this happens in the Egyptian mythology, you can join with the divine. And it's the reason that they put all those wonderful prayers and recitations all over the walls of a person's resting place where the sarcophagus is. It's to guide them as they go out on the next day to join with the divine. And it's to guide them to ensure that their Ba and Ka come together to create an Ach. So the symbol for Ach is the ibis bird, and it's in the background if you look carefully. And the reason I like to use these symbols is because in what I believe, it is kind of like that your consciousness kind of goes on, and you may or may not remember who it is that you were. And I guess the difference between what I believe in mythology in ancient Egypt is that I think that your Ba is a process of reunification that happens over time. And that's been kind of my experience, is that I have been somewhat separated from my own Ba since I went on. And my Ka is here with you. But until my purpose is fulfilled, which I won't get into all this woo on you, I won't really be an Ach again. Instead, I'm just cohabiting my person here. And I call that my physical body, my corporeal self that's here. So, looking purely clinically, I'm an alter, but my personal beliefs are that I am a Jinn cohabiting this person. Crazy stuff Aura's talking about, okay? So, all these creatures in this picture are just departed from our plane and are experiencing their first taste of the next astral plane. And there's kind of a paradox that happens because time becomes like a physical dimension to them. The time of our plane. You could walk back and forth in it and go forward and backward in time. But they are born from a particular place where we ended. But they can see all of it. It exists simultaneously. But for them, they have a new dimension of time that they can't. They're linear in. They can't just cross forward and backward in their own time. That is something they're able to do in the next astral plane. And every successive astral plane that you go up, you see this dimensional expansion and flattening. Expansion into the new one, flattening of the old one. And to kind of try to go backwards into an old one, you kind of have to compress out that extra dimension. It's like you're a slice of yourself. And the higher you go, the harder it is to go down further. For me, in my wild beliefs, I have done that process, and my sort of higher self, trying to think how to use the metaphors here, has been separated. So I'm here with you in a separated way. That's really more of just a cut. And sometimes I get feelers from my body. All fun, wild things to think about. But that's what this painting kind of explores a little bit. I even made a little diagram and wrote up kind of a synopsis of how to analyze it. And maybe I can show you this if I can make it appropriately sized. Hang on. Let me create a show and tell window. And show you what I'm talking about. It's really huge right now. Let me scale it down. So that you can see this. Sorry if I'm a little quiet. I like to use this mic. That makes me sound crisp, and I'm secretly worried it just irritates everybody because I become quiet and loud, quiet and loud. But in order to do face tracking and have a mic, I can't have them both in the same place. So, alright, I'm almost ready to show. Okay. Let me put myself here as I phase through the picture. Okay, so what you see up here is that if you were to take away the time dimension, you see that consciousness is kind of this pinching on the outside of this like skin of a fruit or an orange. And because it's pinching together, you have consciousness forming. And as that forms, you have sort of, you have a self. That's probably your ka, right? And when you die in this, when you leave this astral plane, it kind of, that pinching kind of flattens out. And what you get is the consciousness kind of flows out from it. And that is when you pass on in this bubble and you become what we would call, I call a Jinn. Again, borrowing metaphors for this, but you become that higher consciousness and you kind of expand into it. So instead of being part of the more limited dimension of the previous plane, you're now more dimensional. And you join. So that's what's happening here. That was probably very confusing. Okay, so what do I want to do today? I think I'm going to scooch a little more this way. And then I'm going to open up a brand new illustration. And just make a square one. I thought I would try to do another self-portrait today. And try to do it a little bit differently maybe than I usually do. Give me just one moment. Okay. So, what am I going to do differently? First of all, let's change our brush. I'm going to work more in swatches than I think I normally do. So I'm going to work trying to choose colors that I think are more appropriate for what I'm painting. I'm going to create a black background to paint against. Unlock the background. And I'm going to start with hair, where I think the highlights are, where I kind of picture that being big brush. And this is an exercise in imagination and picturing something before it exists, rather than trying to purely guide by blobs. And maybe this will completely backfire, but I'm going to try it anyway. This is mostly a headshot, so I'll paint it as such. So very big. And my chin hair is falling somewhat behind, like this. The actual, religious concept of a jinn, especially with the Bedouin, is a bit different than the way I use it. And perhaps it's even unfair that I use that term, because from what I understand, a lot of it is, at least in totemic tradition, the jinn are more like creatures that are together as one with less individuality, and oftentimes animalistic in their culture. And that's not how I see it, but in the way that I believe, so it's not one-to-one. When I say jinn, I'm mostly talking about an individual that, while they might be sort of not individualistic, well, they're in their initial stages, they can become that way. And it kind of fuses Egyptian mythology in that sense with the concepts of jinn from Bedouin traditions. And I do also believe that it is more rare to be that way. But I also think that jinn can cohabit the living in certain extreme circumstances, like mine, like my person. And so that's why I call myself that. It's a mashup, I will fully contend. We're not starting a cult here. It's much more nuanced than that. It is for me simply what I believe. It's what I see to be true. And that's the most important part. It is certainly the structure of my whole reality as I experience it. And it evolves over time. So one concept that was given to me via my ka or ba, I suppose, my higher self, was that painting the windows is a very sort of destructive thing you can do, and that is to want to believe something and see something so certainly and adhere to specifics of that belief so rigidly that you begin to miss the truth. And as though you're looking outside your windows and you see birds and you are so sure of what you're seeing that you start painting birds on your window, and eventually what you end up with is a painted window and you can't see the birds anymore. You can't see what's outside your window anymore. I've got a perspective problem here that as I'm trying this exercise I'm noticing. So the danger with painting the windows is that, like I said, if you think you know what the truth is and you try to spell it out, you may feel that there's truth, but you may try to spell it out to such a degree that in your limited understanding, you've lost the ability to feel the truth anymore. What you feel is what you think you know. So while I'm preaching all this crazy woo at you, I'm also well aware that things can change, new information can arise. I just enjoy really sharing my experience with you, my journey, without pretense, without any, I guess, investment in whether anyone believes it or not but me. This is really fun because I'm trying to do something where I'm starting with, instead of starting with some base shade, I'm starting with all these swatches. So I'm doing something very unfamiliar to myself right here. And when I change something, I change a bunch of stuff. Not what I wanted. So I'd like to have, in this painting, I would like to have a hand up against my face. And that involves, also kind of picking an angle for my head. And I've picked a very flat one, unfortunately, and that's not really what I wanted. I don't want to abandon this experiment, but I'm trying to think how to work efficiently with it. So the angle I want is probably more slanted like this. And my head probably wouldn't be that wide. And maybe I've just kind of Maybe I should do a hybrid approach because this is very hard to do the way that I'm doing it. I don't know how else to say it. This doesn't look at all like what I imagine in my head right now. The nose is very high, and the nose is very low compared to what I wanted. My shades are, oop, there goes my brush. My shades are all over the place. So maybe what I'll do is just kind of work on one thing at a time. So I am kind of going to do a hybrid here because it's driving me a little nuts that I can't get this right. Do a head turn. Like this. I'm gonna make my hair a little less poofy. Give it a little bit more weight. Or aura shaped. I think I'm repeating the same track over and over. Oopsie. There we go. That's a little better. I thought those tracks sounded pretty similar. They really were. I think that got pretty loud for a second there. Make sure that I outcompete the music. Keep it around -40. Alright, so I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit off to the left, and I'm gonna make my body do all kinds of interesting things while I'm doing that. And recalibrate. There we go. I think it's a little better. Okay. Let me think about this pose. Okay. I think I should have a hand that probably comes up. I'm gonna try something with yeah, but I painted on the wrong layer. Let me finish out the body here. Let me switch over. Oop, I have done something fun. What did I do? Oopsie. I have clearly turned on some option. Ah, that's what it was. Okay. Try to think about where this hand is going to be. I'd like to have a finger over my mouth. A finger kind of going under my chin, off the side of my face like this. I think the whole hand has to come down a bit. And it's a bit more at an angle than what I have here. So that the fingers seem a little more relaxed. And really, these two fingers would be very close to each other. I'm putting my hand on my face to think about this. Let the fingers kind of guide the shape and position of the hand. Ah. Complete erase. My hand is backwards. That's what was going on. I was like, how is it that that works? Let me pick a very light shade for the hand. That way I can structure it. No, I went backwards again. For some reason, I get things left and right flipped. I really have to check myself on that. Kind of a silly mistake to make. The thumb is on the outside and my hand is turned like this. Another finger here. Underneath my chin, and then the other fingers are more or less curled. I'm thinking again. I think the whole pose is a little bit off because I really want this shadow, this shoulder to be closer. I have more or less abandoned my initial plan and how I was going to paint things, but I'm going to come back to that. I just am not going to start with, I'm not going to start the way I would do a traditional painting with putting down the paint, because really I realize that you need to have much more of a plan to make that work. I'm kind of holding my hand to my face right now to think about this. My shoulder can be even higher, and my body is slanted away more. I'm removing some hair because I need to think about the pose. And I think that my head needs to be oriented a little bit more skyward in order for me to get the emotion I want. So I'll save myself just a bit of work by rotating the head. But only a bit, because this is going to be a complete refactor of the face and everything. I'm going to remove the hand experiment for now. It's almost like I'm actually leaning forward a little bit to make this pose. My shoulder is coming up close to my cheek. My face is pointed up a little bit more. I'm going to completely redo. I'm going to remove all of this. This is just fun. That I can just be like, nope, okay, thinking out loud with my paint. I love digital for this reason. Let's see where my neck is. The spine would be here. Draw like the top part of the skull here. The jaw comes down and over. My face is uplifted. This would be very dark in here. And where the neck comes down and meets. And these shoulders are more behind, because I am kind of leaning forward. Hair would be coming from here, going somewhat around my head, coming down, draped over, against my face. And this hair would be coming down, probably laying behind me. Okay, my eye is here as I'm looking up. Just kind of draw a darkened eye band. My nose is here. The side of my face is here. Start with a nose shadow. I often do that. Fill out the band. Let's take away the background for a second, make sure there's no silly marks going on. Okay. A little bit of down here. Eyebrow. Get the shape. Get the hair shape dialed in a little bit more. Put in some ear. And let's take the whole composition here and move it over a bit. I'm going to save this right now. Take a little sip of my drink. Give me just 1 second. So if you're watching this later, no one's in the stream right now. It's just you and me. Isn't that exciting? Okay. I think I'm ready to continue. All right. I like this shoulder up like this. Now it makes more sense what's going on with the hand. Kind of this DE thing. But we're going to move it to the new position of the mouth. Okay, now I'm going to think about that hand a little bit more. So I kind of have some cues to help me guide. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, there we go. Have to count my fingers so I don't do something that looks like an AI made it or something. Perfectly normal hands here, please. I know I don't always do them very well, but I think I can do them better than all that. Let's hope. So we'd have a knuckle here. Hand shape. A little rise from the thumb. Clean up all this mess I made here. And the hand's a little small. Make it bigger. So this is going to be challenging because not only do I have to put the hand in the right place, but it's also got to be pressing my lips a little bit, and so underneath, at some point I will merge layers and then work on that all together. Including here. I mean, there would be a little bit. Oh, no, we don't want to do that yet. Really pushing myself, challenging myself to do things the way that I'd like to continue to do them in the future, as opposed to doing little cheats and things to try to get myself through the phase of the hand. The hand is a very, very important part of this picture. What do I mean when I say little cheats? I mean I'm cheating myself, I think, sometimes when I don't plan completely what I'm doing and just do something messy and say, oh, I'll fix it later. Sometimes that's okay. I mean, anything in the process of learning is okay as long as you don't do something to frustrate yourself too much. I'm putting my hand on my face right now to try to figure out. I put the hand too flat. Easiest thing to do is to actually think to actually redo this a little bit. Think about how I want to do it. So I should have my middle finger, when I'm laying it across my face, I know my middle finger is going to be under my lip. And crossing like this. My pointing finger is actually here. Excuse me. My other fingers are just curled here, so it looks like the hand is a little bit more edge on than what I had assumed at first. It's interesting. That would mean that the meat of the hand is here. Palm of the hand is here. The upper palm and lower palm. I don't know what the preferred terms are for you, but I'm really kind of working backwards here because I'm trying to think first about where the fingers are and then work up to, yeah, because my thumb would be really kind of underneath my jaw here. And then my hand, my forearm comes way over here, which means that the background needs to change a bit. Let me lock out my layers so that they're nice and safe. And that helps the shoulder naturally come up a little bit more. Actually, you know, locking out the layers isn't going to do me many favors because sorry. I'm getting a little quiet while I'm thinking. I hope you don't mind. Okay. The hand is just a little bit high. Oh, I put some extra stuff in this layer. I also like to show how I fix things. Alright, so I'm going to take my arm here and outline it exactly where I want it to be. The material that I expect to be copying that should only be in this layer. I'm going to take and invert that selection, do a Control X, go down here to the layer where it's supposed to be, and then merge it into that layer. So now you've just got this mess a little bit that I need to clean up. Actually, I'll clean that up right now because it's distracting. So I've goofed, and now I'm re-clarifying things so that they're where I need them to be to see the picture. I should really just call this channel Painting Without a Plan. How to paint from your head by putting things down and saying, does that look right or not? Does that look right? How not to paint efficiently. That would be a good name for the channel. Inefficient painting. I could always come here with a sketch, but I like to do the sketch with everybody. So, this is the sketch. See, the thing I want and I think I've got an answer for myself here, is that this finger, the pointing finger, needs to be more off to the side, like bent against the face a little bit to indicate that I'm kind of holding my face up with it, which I am when I do it IRL with my person. My meat suit. And then these fingers actually curl even more down. And then let's like, oh, now you see what I'm doing? I'm painting on the wrong layer. Okay, this layer. Alright. Start to show that the hair is hanging down behind the head. I don't know, for some reason that helps me to visualize this a little bit better. Uh-oh. Why is that behind? Oh, because I have some stray marks in this layer. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Body. Let's name it. Body. Hand. Okay. And continue what I was trying to do, which is to bring the shoulder more behind the head. I look a little bit sassy, maybe even a little mischievous. Which I am just a little bit mischievous. And put a shadow in here. This is much more true to the vision I had. Now, move the hand. Bring this hair a little bit more up to the face. And it's going to be shadowed a little bit more than it is. This is much more dynamic than most of my pictures have been so far. A little more personality. All good things, right? I think we're making an executive decision to put the hair behind the ear. Make an executive decision to save my work. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and just put an eye in here before I continue. Let's work on the hand again. Do some highlighting. So I don't lose my shapes. I don't lose my forms and structure in here. Maybe do a little bit of well, first let me think more about the shape of the pinky hair before I do that. Give the hand a little bit more shape. Do a little shadowing in. No, don't erase. Shadow. No fingernails yet. Where are the knuckles? They're kind of flattened in. There we go. Let's put that there. Let's put that joint there. Okay. Blend back some of the color that I can now do because I can see things fairly separately. I'm going to think about this for a second. Is that hand correctly sized? Let's play with it a little. See if we can't. Maybe a little bit larger. I think I made this finger just look way too lumpy in retrospect. To the point that it's distracting. And strange. I think there needs to be a little bit more knuckle here. So I'm going to do a sketch layer on top of this to help me clarify. So we have finger end here, knuckle here, and we're supposed, well, the knuckle's here. This finger knuckle should be here. This one, yeah, I can see that this knuckle's too long. That should really be like here and then here. Knuckle here, knuckle here. Oh, there we go. That's a problem. Okay. This knuckle here, knuckle here. I'm also supposed to have a knuckle here. Yeah, that's just way too long. My fingers are not that long. Pinky down, okay. Now I'm going to go back in the hand and do a little corrective work. I can make those fingers come out a little bit more. Maybe. But the degree to which I was doing them wasn't quite right. Let me adjust my posture so I can rest my hand comfortably. Take a breath. Take some drink. do that. I'm painting under my sketch layer a bit so that I can fix this picture. Wrong layer. Let's continue on the hand a little bit to make it a little bit more natural. I've just produced some like very long fingers. That's part of the issue here. At least for the pose I'm going for. I think what I did here by mistake is that I tried to correct the perspective of the hand by messing too much with the fingers. Because like I said, I kind of went backwards and started with fingers. Which is not really what I'm used to doing. Now the dimensions of the fingers need to change a little bit because they need to match with the length. Not too fat, not too skinny. Help the fingers look a little bit more merged. I'm going to remove the body here. Remove this schmutz I put there. Clean this up. want to clean this up quite a bit and then probably merge, because the finger and the shadows it produces on the face as it presses into the skin is going to be very important for the look of this picture. Help myself out here by just making these knuckles a little bit more shade neutral there, because that will help me see the structure better. I don't even know really what I mean by shade neutral. I'm just making stuff up. I think it's better with knuckles to just kind of create soft lines. As opposed to dark patches, because it's continuous bones and ligaments, they're not like little bumps so much. It's a corner where the finger turns to the hand. My line went the wrong direction there. Nope, nope, no, 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 no. Okay. Let's work on the shading here a little bit more. Not quite so much highlight here. More highlight here, and there's a nail here that would catch a little bit more light, I think. A little more contrast here. Okay, let's save that. Put the body back in. The hand is looking kind of chunky while I'm looking at it. Let's shape the fingers a little bit more towards that knuckle. These fingers are somewhat slender. But we don't want to bend the bones either. Might be focusing a little too much on this finger, which is now very long looking. Okay. Let me do a quick jolt of this down a little bit. Okay. And try to work on the shape a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's amazing how like small adjustments are like really crucial for trying to get things like this looking right. What direction do I thicken the finger in? What's the shape here? Like, why does it look strange? This is what I challenged myself with. I think actually the bend is actually a little bit more up here. Towards the middle. And then let's bring this down a little bit. Get the finger right. Think about more realistic structure here. See, the knuckle is like right there. So that means that there's another pad here. And that means that we need to trim this back a little bit for perspective reasons. and put the body back. Alright, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna remove this sketch layer, and I'm going to go ahead and merge with layer below. Alright, so now I get to think about the expressions and things like that on my face. I'm smiling. I'm happy. I'm thinking, I look like I'm wondering a little bit about something, and it's something good. Hmm. 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 I'm sorry. I just like that sound. Bring my structure of my face in a little bit. My hair in, because my neck is actually over here. Nose. Borrow some of this shade. Put some highlight on my nose. Shade this a little bit under here. Give it some shape. Think about the mouth muscles because I'm smiling. Pushing my skin up a little bit here. My lip is raised a little bit more here. There's a little bit of a shadow. My face is a little rounder than that. Not quite so much shadow under here. A little bit of deep shadow. Deeper shadow here. Clean up my eye band a little bit. Alright. Maybe we'll start working on eye now. Eye shape. some highlights in here. Some deeper shadow. Deeper shadow. Deeper shadow. Eye muscle. Let's make that a little darker. Little eye muscle here. Just a little bit of a pink shine on that. There we go. Little shadow here. There's an eyelid. Now I'm doing a little bit more swatchy stuff than I usually do. Okay, darker blue. Little lighter blue. Don't be afraid to bring that up. Let's go ahead and create the pupil. I look a little bit manic. I think my eyelid needs to come down just a bit. And my iris is actually looking up a bit more, I think. Let's fix that. Because I'm thinking, this looks a bit like I'm thinking of taking down a whole cake or something, and I don't want to be that manic. So let's get the shape right. Now I'm actually just working on my lips because I want the expression to be more complete, because it helps me to think about the eye. Okay. As long as I don't look high. Okay. Yeah, my expression, my face is a little bit off. I think there's something going on with my mouth that isn't quite on model, so I'm gonna work with that right now. as I just sit here with my mouth open looking at things. I think that's it. Mouth just needed to move a little bit to the left, a little bit smaller. And pulling my mouth open just a little bit more. My chin is also not quite right here. I'm gonna fix that. There we go. Back and forth and back and forth. Okay. But worth it. Put more deep shadow underneath where the finger is. Kind of balance everything out here. And the same goes for this area here too. Like, I've got my hand under my chin a little bit. These fingers. My nose is a little bit wrong, and I'm going to fix that too. Seems like I always go through these phases when I'm drawing a face. A little more point on my nose. I think I want this lip to be up a little bit more, because I'm smiling. A little bit more highlight on my face. Shadow under the lip here. Make things a little bit more consistent. Fix this schmutz. Slight shadow here. where the finger is as it's leaning against my face. A little more continuity, a little more shadow here because this is actually where my mouth ends. Kind of lost the plot here on my lips. Let's fix that. Make this look a little bit less shadowy, I think. And I think the highlights are too much. This would just work structurally because things have gotten a little bit nuts. When I say let's work structurally, I mean like go back and remove the highlights and just think in terms of like what is there in basic graduations of shade. You know the finger's pushing in here. I know that the mouth should be ending right about here. So some of this is too much. I have this like silly look on my face still, and I wonder if that's because my mouth is a little too wide. Yeah, I look really silly. I'm going to do something that seems unrelated, but I'm going to adjust the size of the eye a little bit first. Oh, come on. Let's try that again. Alright. I was looking for that, okay, yeah, the eye was too big, but I mean, that wasn't the chief problem, so to speak. It was that, I still have this weird frog face. I think the perspective is a little off. Actually, my slappy grin is probably partially because of that. learning. Simplify the shadows a bit. That's kind of cute. We are looking up. We're slightly looking up. It presents kind of a dilemma for how to do the lips of this. And kind of that, I like this kind of cute expression that I've settled on here. I don't look quite as happy. But I think we can kind of fix that anyway. I need a little bit more jaw. I took too much away. So I'm kind of making a mess for a little while I kind of structurally figure out what I should be doing here. I'm pushing the whole cheek up. Bringing the hair down a bit. This nostril is still not right. And we're squishing the cheek a little bit. I think we can give me a little bit more of a smile here without creating too much of a problem. We can start shading in the lip just a bit. And bring in some of this clean the neck a little bit more, the shoulder. I'm doing that just to indicate a little bit more that there's the hair's kind of creeping in on my hand there. My ear wouldn't be quite that big from this angle. In fact, it would be pretty hard to see. Give a little bit more highlight to my shoulder. Okay. I've made the jaw. I keep going back and forth on how to do this with the jaw, the shape of the face. Let me back up a little bit and look at this, because it's just off model. Play with the mouth position a little bit. Again. Yeah. You know, I don't think it's the mouth. I'm going back to the nose. Come on, that's a little bit easier to adjust anyway. Because it's gonna get a little bigger, I think. Or is it the mouth and the nose that just don't fit the face structure? Because the face structure seems right, or at least close to it. Let's see. No. I think it really is the face structure. I think the face structure doesn't fit the perspective quite right. Yeah, I think that's it. If anything, maybe the mouth is just a little bit too large. I want it to be perfect. I want it to be feeling really on model for me. You know I'm in trouble the moment I say I want it to be perfect, right? But that is better, I think. It feels more aura. Than what I had a second ago. Yeah, that feels a lot better. I'm gonna do some more work on the eye because it makes me happy. Pick a quite dark shade here. this up. A little bit more forehead. Actually, you know, the face is a little bit fat still. Here we go. Time to wreck it. Madness, madness, madness. Yeah, let's do the eyebrow a little bit more. Bring the mouth up just a touch. Yeah, there. Oh, he's squishing it in right there. That's neat. I like that. Round my chin a little bit more. It looks a little bit better if my ear is actually hidden, I think, here. It's a little bit more perspective correct. The shadow there is a little bit too much. The eye actually might be a little small. Oh boy, here we go. And I didn't even finish the shading around it, so that's fine. Let's take away the background so I can see where we're missing all of the shading that is required here. Or actually, no, let's continue doing it this way. And just rough shade. Just backfill this in really quick. And I won't go ham on that shading yet because I'm not even sure if I'm going to keep it that way. Right? Right. Right. I think I'm convinced now. I think that looks nice. So we need to count the number of times I said that I think it looks good or nice before the end of the stream. Okay. Okay. I noticed that the angle of the eye is a little bit weird. I'm going to fix that. Position of the eye got a little bit done wrong when I slapped it down last time. Did myself a little dirty. Alright, let's put the background back. Do a little bit more work on this. Put some shade indications in. I'm a little less distracted now. And the neck actually comes way down. And so I'm going to indicate that with the shading on the shoulder. The clavicles are fairly high up right now. Clavicle. Clavicular. Everybody loves to talk about that streamer. Clavicular. I'm really quiet. Sorry about that. Oh, fudged. And I think I'm just about ready to call it for this stream. And then I'll pick this up next time. I'm just making a couple of little adjustments because I can't stop myself. Apparently. Very dark red in here. And just because I wanted to look pretty for the work in progress preview, put some eye shine in here. Okay. Let me walk myself over a little bit. Stand next to my work. Look happy. Is happy enough? Okay. All right. So, thank you all for joining. I wish you peace and happiness, and I'll probably do a stream tonight to work a little bit more on this. So until then, bye-bye, and take care of yourselves.